Imagine two locked rooms in Washington. Inside the first room is a file containing the secrets of American citizens. Inside the second is a plan capable of changing the future of an entire foreign nation. One room belongs to the FBI. The other belongs to the CIA. Officially, these agencies protect the same country, but behind closed doors, they have competed for information, influence, and control. They watched suspected spies. They infiltrated political movements. They experimented with the human mind, and sometimes they investigated one another. But the most disturbing part of their history is not what disappeared. It is what survived. Because decades later, ordinary Americans broke into an FBI office and uncovered a secret operation. CIA employees discovered records that were supposed to have been destroyed, and government investigators revealed something almost unbelievable. The Guardians watching America's enemies had also been watching America itself. This is not a story about two agencies working together. This is the secret history of two powerful organizations fighting different wars while standing on the same side. Before the FBI became a symbol of federal power, America had no large, centralized federal police force. The Bureau of Investigation, the organization that would eventually become the FBI, was created in 1908. Its battlefield was inside America. Criminals, corruption, espionage, sabotage. But as the Bureau grew, one man slowly became almost inseparable from it: J. Edgar Hoover. Hoover understood something that many politicians did not. Information could be more powerful than a weapon. A weapon could destroy a person. A secret could control one. But what happens when the man collecting everyone's secrets remains in power for nearly half a century? And what happens when another secret organization appears, one Hoover cannot fully control? During World War II, President Franklin D. Roosevelt created the Office of Strategic Services, the OSS. Led by William Wild Bill Donovan, it gathered intelligence, conducted covert operations, and worked behind enemy lines. The OSS became the ancestor of the modern CIA, but its creation immediately caused tension. The FBI, the military, and other departments were suspicious of this new organization. Everyone wanted information, but no one wanted to surrender authority. That tension revealed a conflict that would haunt American intelligence for decades. Who should control the secrets? The police? The military? The president? Or an agency operating in the shadows? Then the war ended. President Harry Truman abolished the OSS in 1945. For a moment, America's global spy network appeared to be disappearing. But secrets rarely disappear. They change owners. Parts of the OSS survived inside temporary intelligence organizations. Then, in 1947, the National Security Act created the Central Intelligence Agency. A third of the CIA's early personnel were OSS veterans. The names had changed, but much of the experience, culture, and knowledge remained. The United States now possessed two very different instruments of power. The FBI operated mainly inside the country as a law enforcement and domestic intelligence organization. The CIA looked outward, collecting foreign intelligence and conducting covert activities overseas. At least, that was the clean version. Reality was far more complicated. Hoover had spent years building the FBI into a powerful institution. Then, the CIA arrived with access to the president, classified budgets, and international operations the public might never see. The two agencies needed each other. The FBI could identify suspected spies operating on American soil. The CIA could gather intelligence from foreign capitals. But cooperation required sharing information, and information meant power. So ask yourself, if revealing a secret makes your rival stronger, do you share it, or do you lock it away? This was the hidden weakness inside America's intelligence system. The FBI and CIA were hunting some of the same enemies, but they did not always trust one another. A foreign agent might begin an operation overseas and continue it inside the United States. That meant the CIA could hold the first half of the story, while the FBI held the second. And if the two sides failed to connect their information, the complete picture could remain invisible. They were two guards protecting the same building, sometimes watching each other more carefully than the door. By the 1950s, fear of communism had spread across America. The Soviet Union possessed nuclear weapons. Espionage cases had shocked the public. Political movements were viewed through the lens of national security. In 1956, the FBI began a classified operation called COINTELPRO. the Counterintelligence Program. It initially targeted the Communist Party USA. It later expanded to include the Socialist Workers' Party, the Ku Klux Klan, the Black Panther Party, and other political organizations. But COINTELPRO was not limited to watching people. FBI agents and informants infiltrated groups, created internal suspicion, disrupted relationships, and attempted to discredit individuals. In some cases, these tactics were used even when there was little or no evidence of illegal activity. Think about that for a moment. A person inside a political organization might appear to be a trusted friend, but that friend could be reporting private conversations to the government. An anonymous letter might look like it came from an angry rival, but it could have been designed to create paranoia. A rumor could destroy a movement without a single arrest. The target would never see the hand pushing the first domino. That was the brilliance and the danger of the operation. It attacked trust itself. One of the darkest chapters involved Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. King was one of the most visible leaders of the civil rights movement. To millions, he represented hope. To Hoover, he became a target of intense suspicion. The FBI monitored King, investigated his associates, and collected deeply personal information about him. Then the operation crossed a horrifying line. An anonymous package was sent to King. It contained a recording and a letter designed to intimidate and psychologically break him. The message has often been interpreted as an attempt to pressure King into taking his own life. This was not an enemy operative in a distant country. This was an American civil rights leader being targeted by an American agency. Years later, investigations into intelligence abuses would publicly criticize the Bureau's surveillance of King, COINTELPRO, and the use of FBI information for political purposes. But while the FBI experimented with destroying reputations, the CIA was exploring something even more disturbing. Could the human mind itself be manipulated? The Cold War was not only a military struggle, it was a psychological one. American officials feared that communist governments had discovered methods of brainwashing prisoners and controlling human behavior. The CIA wanted answers. That search produced one of the most infamous programs in intelligence history. Beginning in the 1950s, the program explored drugs, hypnosis, psychological techniques, electroshock, and other possible methods of influencing human behavior. LSD became one of its most notorious tools. Some participants volunteered. Others reportedly had no idea they were being used in an experiment. Official investigations later concluded that LSD had been secretly administered to unwitting, non-volunteer subjects, and that individual rights had been ignored despite known dangers. Now, imagine entering a room believing you are attending a normal meeting. Someone pours you a drink. Minutes later, reality begins to dissolve. The walls seem to move. Your thoughts no longer feel like your own. And somewhere nearby, someone is taking notes. You are not a patient. You are not a volunteer. You are the experiment. In 1953, scientist Frank Olson attended a retreat with CIA-associated colleagues. Without his prior knowledge, he was given LSD. In the days that followed, his mental condition deteriorated. He later fell from a New York hotel window and died. His death became one of the central mysteries surrounding MKULTRA. Was it suicide triggered by psychological distress? Was there more to the story? Questions continued for decades. But one fact was already devastating. A secret experiment had entered a man's mind without his informed consent, and he never returned to his previous life. Then, in 1973, CIA Director Richard Helms ordered MKULTRA records destroyed. It appeared that much of the truth had vanished, but someone had missed a few boxes. In 1977, while responding to a Freedom of Information Act request, a CIA employee discovered 7 boxes of financial records. They had escaped the destruction order. Those fragments revealed information connected to 149 MKULTRA sub-projects. Not complete operational histories, not every victim's name, not every location, only financial records, receipts, payments, and administrative traces. But sometimes a receipt is enough to prove that a secret room existed. And here is the chilling question. If 7 forgotten boxes revealed this much, what was contained in the records that were successfully destroyed? We may never know. But MKULTRA was not the only classified program exposed by an accident. The FBI's secrets were about to be stolen, not by a foreign spy, but by a group of ordinary citizens. While much of America was focused on a major boxing match between Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier, a small group entered an FBI office in Media, Pennsylvania. They called themselves the Citizens Commission to investigate the FBI. They were not highly trained intelligence officers. They did not possess futuristic equipment. They used careful planning, observation, and a crowbar. Inside, they found files describing domestic surveillance operations. They removed the documents and sent copies to journalists and politicians. Among the papers was a word unfamiliar to most Americans: COINTELPRO. The March 8, 1971 burglary and subsequent leaks triggered public criticism and a major reevaluation of FBI domestic security practices. Hoover formally ended COINTELPRO the following month, in April 1971. The most powerful investigative agency in America had been exposed because someone failed to secure a filing cabinet. No sophisticated foreign operation, no legendary spy, just citizens who believed the government had crossed a line, and documents that proved their suspicions were not imaginary. But the greatest reckoning was still ahead. By the mid-1970s, America had changed. The Vietnam War had damaged public trust. Watergate had revealed presidential abuse of power. Now, reports of intelligence misconduct were emerging. In 1975, the United States Senate formed a committee led by Senator Frank Church to investigate government intelligence activities. The hearings examined operations involving the CIA, FBI, and other agencies. The investigation forced America to confront an uncomfortable truth. Organizations created to protect democracy could threaten democratic freedoms when secrecy operated without sufficient oversight. The FBI was criticized for COINTELPRO, its investigation of King and questionable surveillance practices. The CIA faced scrutiny over covert operations, domestic activities, and experiments involving human subjects. The agencies had not suddenly become villains. They had also disrupted espionage, fought organized crime, gathered vital intelligence, and helped protect the country. That is what made the story so difficult. The same institutions could protect freedom in one operation and violate it in another. The same secrecy that protected an agent's life could also hide misconduct. The same authority that stopped a genuine threat could be turned against innocent people. Here is the unexpected truth. The darkest secret is not that the CIA and FBI were identical. They were never the same. The CIA was designed primarily to understand and influence events outside the United States. The FBI was built around federal law enforcement and security inside it. Their missions, authorities, and cultures were different, and that difference created both protection and danger. When they refused to share information, threats could slip through the gap. But when boundaries became blurred, American citizens could be treated like foreign enemies. Too much separation created blindness. Too much cooperation created the possibility of unchecked surveillance. The real history of these agencies is therefore not simply a story about secrecy. It is a story about balance. How much power should an intelligence agency possess? Who is allowed to watch the watchers? And how can the public oversee an operation that cannot safely be made public? There is no perfect answer, because total transparency can destroy intelligence work, but total secrecy can destroy accountability. Remember those two rooms? One held secrets about Americans. The other held plans for foreign operations. For decades, the FBI and CIA operated on opposite sides of an invisible boundary. But history shows that boundaries can move. Fear can move them. War can move them. A powerful director can move them. And once that line shifts in darkness, the public may not discover it for years. Sometimes the truth emerges during a Senate hearing. Sometimes it survives inside 7 forgotten boxes. And sometimes it is carried out of an office in a stolen file. The CIA and FBI were created to find hidden threats, but their secret history teaches a more important lesson. The greatest danger is not always the enemy an intelligence agency is watching. Sometimes the danger begins when no one is watching the intelligence agency. Because every secret organization asks the public for trust. History asks a different question. How much trust should power receive before it must show us what it has done?